Good morning, and welcome to the 2021 Global Issues Summit. My name is Sanjay Ravindran, and I am a co-coordinator for the Global Issues Summit. I'd like to begin by thanking you, the audience, for being here today, as well as Fort Bend leaders and admin who have continually supported our efforts. As you may know, 2021 marks the ninth year of our summit. Each year, our team strives to bring a relevant theme with fresh perspectives and thought-provoking presentations. We are incredibly proud to announce GIS 21. I am even more proud of the team that worked to put this conference together this year. As much as we would all like to be standing in front of you today, unfortunately, due to the current circumstances, we could not. However, our theme is building collaborative communities and focuses on how we as a society can improve the lives of others all around us. And nothing is as powerful as the voice that refuses to back down in times of adversity. This year's summit will focus on a wide assortment of United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, that fall under the categories of people and prosperity. The principles behind the SDGs are shared with the mission of today's summit to turn awareness into action. The idea that anybody can meaningfully fight a cause of global importance. Today, you will hear from a series of inspiring individuals who are on the front lines for this effort. Let's take a look at the goals and what they're all about.
Good morning. My name is Sanjana Gunjan, and I have had the honor of being the president of the Global Studies Academy over the past year. From our student cohort classes to our large leadership team, collaboration is truly the foundation of our academy. Members of GSA work directly with students from other schools through district events and leadership programs. In addition, GSA students work directly with the community through a variety of volunteer activities and leadership events. Our collaborative strength allows us to put together events such as the Global Issues Summit, which showcases the diversity of thought present in our Academy student body. It is now my honor to introduce Dr. Charles Dupree, the Superintendent of Fort Bend ISD, who will be delivering the opening address to this summit. Dr. Dupree has led the district for 8 years, during which time he has constantly strived to engage the community, particularly students, in district planning processes. Please welcome Dr. Charles Dupree.
I'm Charles Dupree, Fort Bend ISD Superintendent of Schools. Welcome to the 2021 Global Issues Summit. The Global Issues Summit focuses on educating our community about relevant social, political, and environmental issues and the effects they can have on our society. Each year, GIS hosts attendees from across Fort Bend ISD and Fort Bend County, and thanks to our new virtual platform, we are now able to reach attendees around the world. During this year's event, we will focus on the origin and role of community. Attendees will learn how we can support different communities and the impact of collective community action. Several civic and nonprofit leaders are here today to discuss the importance of a strong community. In Fort Bend ISD, we work to instill the attributes of the profile of a graduate in each of our students: servant leadership, critical thinking, compassionate citizenship, effective communication, collaborative teamwork, lifelong learning, and skills for life. You will see these attributes featured throughout the summit as attendees delve into some of the world's most pressing issues. I want to thank the Global Studies Academy staff and students, as well as the Global Issues Summit coordinators, the committee, and Booster Club for coordinating this insightful event. Their collective work embodies the collaboration and teamwork we must have in our communities to create lasting change. I encourage you to fully engage in today's summit, listen, participate, and ask questions. Collaborate with your peers and keep an open mind as you are introduced to different perspectives. And I challenge you to use this summit to turn awareness into action.
As a student who has benefited from Dr. Dupree's mentorship, leadership, and character over the past 11 years of my career in FBISD, I can say that there is no man that can do the work that he does. We are so grateful to him for his support and will miss his presence at our future conference welcomes, but we know that this will not be the last time that he interacts with GIS. Now to continue, my name is Ashley Poole, and I'm honored to be one of the Global Issues Summit coordinators. To echo the words of my wonderful partner Sanjay and our amazing president Sanjana, we are thrilled to present the event, the speakers that have gathered, and the attendees that will be engaged. Following suit with the GIS and Fort Bend ISD motto of collaboration, we've partnered with the Collaborative Communities Department of FBISD. Take a look at this area of our district and the work they do to make our mission of collaboration a reality.
Hello, my name is Payal Pandit Talati, and I am the Executive Director for the Department of Collaborative Communities. I understand the theme for the conference today is Building Collaborative Communities, which is perfect alignment with what our department does. We are charged with creating mutually beneficial partnerships that ultimately impact our students. We strive to create that transformational impact across the district while we engage with our community, organizations, and community members, and also you as our students. We have received so much support, not only from our students, but from community members who seek volunteer opportunities to help with our 4 key priorities. One of which is exemplary partnerships and building that sustainable partnerships over time for our campuses, mentoring, where we work with community members to come onto our campuses, this year virtual, to mentor students and read books with them. We also have a Shared Dreams program where we provide temporary assistance to students in need. And this year, throughout the pandemic, we have been targeting food insecurity for those that have severely been impacted of COVID-19. We have been holding food distributions and engaging with our students in that way, and we're always happy to provide that support to you all. Please contact us at collaborativecommunities@fortbendisd.com, and we truly appreciate being able to talk to you today and learn a little bit about you as well.
Hello, I'm Bobby Anderson, Community Engagement Liaison for Collaborative Communities in Fort Bend ISD. I oversee a program that is called Shared Dreams. We provide adequate clothing, toiletries, and school supplies, along with food for students who are in need. If you would like to volunteer with us, we could put you to work separating clothing, putting together toiletry bags, and food bags. We are always looking to work with our community and our students. If you would like to create a drive to help us, a toiletry drive, a school clothing drive, a food drive, we could also talk about that. Please feel free to contact us, 281-634-2916. I look forward to speaking with you and serving our community together.
Please join me in thanking the Collaborative Communities Department for their contribution to not only GIS, but Fort Bend ISD. Now, to get us started, I would like to introduce our keynote speaker for GIS 2021, Dr. Kien Lee, who is Vice President of Community Science. To name a few of her accomplishments, Dr. Lee has expertise in immigrant integration issues, racial equity strategies and programming, health disparities reduction, and the development of cross-culturally competent organizations. Before joining community science, Dr. Lee assisted in the coordination and evaluation of initiatives that focused on the community and coalition building, including her Center for Substance Abuse Prevention's Community Partnership and Community Coalition Demonstration Grant Projects and LISC's Community Building Initiative. Her current work focuses on how to build the capacity of community-based organizations to be better consumers of data, as well as the measurement of immigrant integration and racial equity. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Lee.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to share with you my organization's concept, practice, and research about community. Community Science is a small business. Our main office is located in Maryland, and we work nationally and internationally. We help government agencies, philanthropy, and nonprofit organizations use scientifically derived knowledge to build and strengthen community so that everyone in the community has what they need to thrive and to reach their full potential. My colleagues and I at Community Science see the world in terms of communities, and I'll explain this a little bit more later. We believe that there is a science to building, strengthening, and sustaining communities based on decades of research and evaluation studies. And this is why we name our organization Community Science. By the end of my presentation, I hope that you will see community in the way we see it and have ideas for how you can help build collaborative communities. Community, a word we use a lot and in all sorts of ways. I love the community I live in. It's diverse, everyone is very friendly, and all my neighbors recognize and know each other. I love my professional network of peers. It's a community that I feel I belong to. The Asian community is battling the surge of hate crimes against its members right now. The Black and Asian communities are uniting against racism, even as they deal with the divisions between their communities. These are just examples of how I think about and experience community. There are many other examples, including those that involve young people. Duck Hill, Mississippi is a tiny rural town that suffers from severe flooding, made worse by climate change. A group of youth learned about how the flooding hurts their families as well as other families because they couldn't leave their house after the storms to go get food and other things. The water would accumulate up to 1 foot high and for several days sometimes. Since then, these youth have become involved in climate change efforts and even helped build a green space on a street corner after a system was constructed to stop the flooding. Here's another example. Youth all over the country marched to change gun laws after the Parkland, Florida shooting. Why? Because they were concerned about what had been happening in their schools, a community they all belong to. I've referred to different types of community so far, yet there is something common in all of them. It's about people, it's about relationships. Let's take a couple of minutes to reflect here. What does community mean to you? Which community do you feel you belong to? Feel free to type your comments in the chat. So what about the people and the relationships? David Chavez and David McMillan, two community psychologists, wrote an article about these relationships and what they can do. They said that community is a set of relationships that help to, 1, meet the needs of everyone who are part of that network of relationships. 2, connect everyone emotionally to each other based on a set of common values, interests, shared history, time together, and experiences. So meet the needs, connect people emotionally. 3, deal with things that are important by influencing each other's thinking and behaviors. And 4, take care of the people who are part of that community. So influence and taking care of people who are part of that community. There's been extensive research about sense of community in the United States and globally. David Chavez and colleagues created the Sense of Community Index 2, which measures sense of community using 24 questions that touch on the 4 things I just described. This index has been used all over the world to study sense of community among people in different settings, from neighborhoods to schools and more. This index has been shown to be valid and reliable. In other words, it measures what it's supposed to measure, that is sense of community, and it is consistent in measuring this sense of community over and over again. You can find information about the sense of community on www.senseofcommunity.com. Why is community so important? What's so great about having community? Well, decades of research have shown that community has a major impact on people's health and well-being. The sense of community you have and can help you and other members of that community to, one, feel and act as a group collectively to influence things that matter to you all. Like in the case of youth marching to change gun laws and in Duck Hill with the flooding issue. And two, promote people caring for each other. At the same time, beware that the sense of community you feel can be so strong that you focus only on the people who are part of your community and might overlook or discount others who are not. Let's pause here for a couple of minutes. Can you think of another community that you tend not to pay much attention to or overlook because you don't think you share the same values, interests, or experiences? Put your response in the chat if you want to. I'll repeat, can you think of another community that you tend not to pay much attention to or overlook because you don't think you share the same values, interests, or experiences? Well, so I just talked a little bit about that sense of community index. How can we use it? I'll share an example of what we did in one of our projects. A philanthropic organization, a foundation, hired us to evaluate an immigrant integration initiative. We administered this index, right, as part of this initiative in several towns in Colorado. We asked approximately 100 immigrants and non-immigrants in each town about whether they experienced a sense of community with each other. Their responses were analyzed to create a sense of community score. By the way, you can learn more about how to derive the score on that website I mentioned earlier, senseofcommunity.com. We noticed that the towns that were also ski resorts, the sense of community score was lower, relatively lower compared to other towns. If you think about it, it kind of makes sense. In these towns, there is a big racial and economic difference between the people who work at the resorts, that is, typically immigrant and seasonal workers from Mexico and Latin America, and the non-immigrants who come to the ski resorts to ski, typically white and affluent. This difference created boundaries and divisions, and therefore contributed to the lower sense of community the immigrants and non-immigrants felt with each other. Great, we learned that the sense of community in these ski resorts was not strong. What do we do about it? Well, one solution is to study the places where immigrants and non-immigrants interact and create opportunities for them to get to know each other, find things they care about, identify the values they share, and build emotional connections. The notion of community and sense of community is not always a rosy one. In some drastic situations, some people in one community might even be inclined to think that the people from another community who appear different from them are lesser, and as such, they don't deserve to have the same resources and opportunities as their community. This sort of thinking contributes to discrimination, oppression if one group of people continues to have more privilege and power over another group of people, and sometimes violence and even genocide. We've seen this in the United States and other countries around the world. Well, so what can we do to build collaborative communities? What can we do to ensure that community and sense of community is built, strengthened, and that we don't end up in places where one community feels that they're better than another community? There are three things we can do. One, help a group of people to develop community by helping them connect with each other, care for each other, and collectively advocate for their interests and priorities. This is what we call bonding. Two, help two or more communities that on the surface look different or appear to have differences, different values and interests, to connect the people with each other, to care for each other's people, and to build solidarity, collaborate, and advocate for their common needs. This is what we call bridging. Three, help communities organize to ensure that they are treated fairly by the people who make decisions that affect their lives, such as elected officials, directors of state and local governments, school board, etc. This is what we call linking. So it's bonding within community, bridging between communities, and linking between communities and the systems and leadership that's supposed to take care of them. Let me share one of my favorite projects that focused on bridging. It was a national initiative to strengthen relationships between new immigrants and the people who are born and have lived in the United States for generations. This happened in 6 cities in this initiative. The initiative focused especially on new immigrant and Black Americans because of the historical tensions that exist between these two groups of people. We took a group of local foundation staff and their community advisors to different places around the country that are historically significant to immigrants, such as Ellis Island and a barrio at the San Diego-Tijuana border. For Black Americans, this was the Martin Luther King Jr. Center and the Auburn Avenue Research Library in Atlanta. During our visits to these places, we facilitated dialogues about the histories of the people and the places, and reflected on the common experiences between immigrants and Black Americans as well as white Americans. The staff from the foundations then went back to their cities and integrated this learning into their grant making. In San Diego, they funded a project that brought together a group of women from different religions and race and ethnicity, and who spoke different languages, to create an international kitchen where they cooked together and catered food to different events. Imagine a group of women who could only communicate with each other because of language differences through hand gestures, signs, and through food. They actually got to know each other as women, as people who care about their families and who love cooking for their families. In Atlanta, they funded a project that bridged a Black and a Vietnamese community through the planting of a garden. In this garden, people from both communities planted herbs and vegetables and exchanged information about the herbs, the vegetables, and the dishes they made with them. In Washington, D.C., a group of Vietnamese, Latino, and Black youth designed a mural that illustrated the histories of their people in a neighborhood that was historically Black and with the arrival of immigrants became very diverse over time. The history of the Black residents became less known over time, and the new immigrants started to create their own histories of the place. This sometimes led to misunderstandings about each other's communities and the contributions they made and were making to the neighborhood. The mural helped to create a visible, artistic reminder of everyone's contributions to that neighborhood. The mural was installed at a subway station in the neighborhood. We interviewed the people who participated in the initiative in the 6 cities, and also reviewed the social science literature on intergroup relations and community building going back 3 decades. We learned that it is helpful to bridge communities by not starting and not overstating their different histories, traditions, and cultures. Instead, let's start with how they're similar, even though they might have different ways of exhibiting or celebrating the similarities. Here's another quick story that reflects this point. In a small town in Massachusetts, the new Latino immigrants and the white and Black residents who've lived there for generations had very little to do each other on a day-to-day basis, even though they were part of this small Massachusetts town. There wasn't a strong sense of community among them, and the immigrants even shared incidents of feeling discriminated against. A nonprofit organization in the community decided to do something about it. Their community organizer went door to door to get to know the residents from all the different racial and ethnic backgrounds and to learn about what they were concerned regarding their community. Well, it turned out that they all shared one thing in common: their children's safety when they walked to school in the winter, because the sidewalks were not well plowed and their children were forced to walk on the road. It didn't matter what differences they thought they had. They all cared about their children's safety. So the community organizer convened a group of residents from different racial and ethnic backgrounds to advocate for proper snow removal in their neighborhood during the winter. As they organized and collaborated on this effort, they got to know each other as caring parents and the different ways in which they celebrated and cared for their children. Their perceived differences about each other started to go away slowly. Our work at Community Science has over and over again affirmed several things that are crucial to do when building collaborative communities that are inclusive of everyone. These are things you can share with other people who are involved in building and bridging communities, or to do them yourself. The first one, if you want to create stronger bonds within your community or to create bridges with another community, it helps to find and work with people that community members listen to. Influences. If the community is your school, it could be the teacher that everyone likes, respects, and cares about them. It could also be one of your peers. It could be you. If the community is your neighborhood, this could be your mom, your dad, your grandparent, or somebody down the street who everyone in your neighborhood stops by to seek advice about everything. If the community is your faith community, this could be the pastor, the rabbi, imam, or guru in your church, synagogue, mosque, or temple. These people can influence and encourage community members to develop stronger bonds with each other and to also build bridges with people from another community that they thought were different from them. Second one, if you want to create bridges with another community, find something common between your community and that other community. This could be any issue that affects all of you. In the Parkland situation, for instance, it doesn't matter if you go to school in a rural community or someone else goes to school in the city. Gun violence in schools affects all of you. You can use that issue to organize everyone and take collective action. We're seeing some of this right now in the Black and Asian communities. The Seattle Public Library created an exploration guide for high school students that touches on examples of Asian-Black solidarity, sources of conflict, and how we are all intertwined in the same struggle for liberation, as well as ideas for how to talk about race with your family and friends. You can actually find this guide on the Seattle Public Library's website, www.spl.org. Another thing you can do when working together to take collective action, go out of you to create opportunities for people to get to know each other as people. Value and lift up the similarities as much as or more than the differences. Go out of your way to break down any stereotypes, any assumptions, and any misinformation you might have about each other before that. Treat people from the different communities as if they're the same. Every community has something to offer. Every community is important. Every community has strengths. It may take time to figure out what that is, but don't assume that a community has nothing to offer or offers less than what your community has. Don't start your bridging by thinking that one group of people is not as good as another group of people. Another one, learn to deal with tensions and conflicts and transform them into dialogues, productive dialogues, and stronger relationships. This is really important because disagreement and conflict are not things we're comfortable with or are taught to deal with. Yet, as you all well know, they are part of every relationship. We don't have to deal with them through violence. Find ways to develop the courage, confidence, and skills to facilitate different conversations and negotiate conflict. There are a lot of resources out there. One of them is on this website, https://creducation.net, creducation.net. They have a lot of resources that you can use. Last but not least, keep thinking bigger. It's not just the one person in your community you want to develop a bond with. It's not just the one person in another community you want to develop a bridge with. It's groups of people. It's about communities. Communities in the United States and communities globally, as you all are learning to do with this incredible summit. I'd like to end by asking you, what is something you can do or want to do to build collaborative communities? As you think about that and type your comments in the chat if you want, I'd like to thank you for your time and the honor of speaking to you all today. Thank you.
Thank you for that informative and insightful speech, Dr. Lee. Dr. Lee has been answering your questions in the chat. However, if you'd like to further converse with her, please see her contact information that has just been posted in our chat box. This concludes the first portion of our summit. We'll be using Hopin for the remainder of the day. Attendees will participate in 2 breakout sessions specialized to your interests, followed by a panel presentation back in our main session. You will go to the breakout sessions in the order that they appear under the Sessions tab of Hopin. There will be interactive activity in all sessions. However, as the live speakers are presenting the initial speech, please mute yourself and turn on your video if preferred. Interactive portions will be led by students. Each breakout session will last approximately 30 minutes, with designated breaks communicated in our conference schedule, which has been emailed to you as part of your conference resources. During these 10-minute breaks, we encourage you to visit the Expos tab on the left-hand side of your screen. Here, you can view our GSA Senior Capstone projects and GIS Freshman projects. These projects are a culmination of months of hard work and research, and we encourage each of you to see how these students uniquely present and propose solutions to pressing global issues. As is the expectation, any rude, inappropriate activity of any kind will be reported and disciplinary action will be taken as follows. Please help us keep a healthy and enthusiastic environment here today at conference. We ask that you stay actively engaged in our conference until the end. What you take away from this conference is also contingent on the effort that you put in. We will now be dismissing all of you to your first breakout session. Please see the posted slide for visual instructions. Click out of this session and your first breakout session will appear in the Sessions tab of your screen. Click here and wait for the presentation to begin. Should you have any technology problems, please email our hotline at globalissuesummit@gmail.com or join the session entitled GIS Assistance Needed. We will assist you there. Now, please leave this session and click to enter your next session. From there, you will receive more instructions in your room. We'll all gather here again to conclude our day and view our panel following your interactive sessions. Enjoy.